The Youngstown area has some of the best pizza around, but have you ever tried making your own? If I'm catching your attention with all this delicious pizza footage, then stick around for more in this week's After Hours Report. Hello and welcome to the After Hours Report. I'm Maggie Young, and this week I could tell you about all the latest entertainment news, which you can always find at AfterHoursYoungstown.com. Or we can switch things up a bit and cook ourselves a classic Youngstown Briar Hill pizza.
Where's the pizza?
Yeah, I thought we'd be on the same page about this. And you know what that means. It's time to get out our Recipes of Youngstown cookbooks. Flipping through, I found this recipe for Mrs. Sorb's pizza dough in the first cookbook and Mrs. Sorb's sauce number 2 in the second book, both submitted by Recipes of Youngstown founder Bobby Annette Allen. So I know what you're thinking. Who is Mrs. Sorb's and what makes her pizza so great? Valid question. So here is Bobby to tell us a little bit about the recipe and Mrs. Sorb's.
She's the person mentioned in most of my Italian recipes in our cookbooks for Recipes of Youngstown. She was the source of every good recipe that I can think of. And she died at the age of 95, and to be perfectly honest, we moved in next door to her when I was 5 years old, and my entire life I thought she was 95. When my parents were having problems, she would invite me over just to keep me busy. She'd hear my parents arguing, and she would say, "Come on over, I'm gonna make it a pizza, show you how." So I would go over, and she would make the dough from scratch. She would get the yeast, and she'd watch it, and she'd start adding some flour, and she'd let it sit a little bit, and then she'd add more flour and a little bit of oil, and she would just everything by hand. It was just a childhood memory that sticks with me to this day. Her pizza was phenomenal. She always bragged that she might have invented the Briar Hill pizza. I try to honor her with every recipe I put in the book and with everything I cooked. Her name was Teresa Sorbs, but she was always Mrs. Sorbs.
You can follow Mrs. Sorb's recipes right out of the cookbooks, but if you're a member of the Recipes of Youngstown Facebook group like I am, you can also find a slightly different version by Bobby that she adapted over the years. That's the one we're going to follow today, so let's get started. The first step is to chop up some red and green bell peppers. I'm using 2 of each. Take them over to your stove and saute them in a little bit of olive oil until slightly cooked, and then set them aside to cool. Now it's time to make the dough, and for that we'll need 2 cups of hot tap water, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 tablespoon plus half a teaspoon of dry yeast, 1 teaspoon of salt, 5 cups of all-purpose flour, and 1/3 cup of vegetable oil. With any kind of dough making, it's time to bring out the secret weapon. Now you don't need a stand mixer, you could do all of this by hand, but it helps. Step 1, mix together your yeast, sugar, and water. Let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes to form a sponge. Next add the oil, salt, and 2 cups of flour and mix on low for about 5 minutes. Now switching to a dough hook, we'll mix in 1/2 cup of flour at a time until the dough starts to separate from the bowl. Now that it's fully mixed, we'll turn the dough out onto a floured surface and knead it for about 5 minutes. Finally, grease a large bowl, I'm using olive oil, and place the dough inside, making sure to coat it evenly. Cover with a towel and set it in a warm place until it doubles in size. While we wait for our dough to rise, which can take about an hour, we can make our sauce. The ingredients we'll need for that are 1 large can of tomato puree, 1 small can of tomato paste, 3/4 cup of water, 3/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese, 1/3 cup of grated Romano cheese, 1 teaspoon of minced garlic, and 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. Start by mixing together the puree, paste, and water. Then add the Parmesan, Romano, and garlic. Lastly, add the Italian seasoning, crushing it to release the flavor. Now that our sauce is ready, we can check on the dough. Once it's doubled in size, punch it down and separate the dough as necessary. This batch will make 3 to 4 14-inch pizzas depending on how thick you like your crust. Or you can do what I'm doing and cut the dough in half and cook your pizzas on 2 large baking sheets. Stretch and press the dough into your pan. Then grab your sauce and add it to your pizza dough. Remember those bell peppers we sauteed? Grab those too and throw those on there as well. Last but not least, top with some Romano cheese. Pop those pizzas into a preheated 400-degree oven for about 20 minutes. And here is our Mrs. Sorb's Briar Hill pizza. Now it's time for a taste test. I think Mrs. Sorbs would be proud. If you end up making yourself a pizza this weekend, then post a picture in the comments down below. We'd love to see your creations. And a special announcement, if you enjoyed making pierogi, donuts, and pizza here with me on the After Hours Report, then you'll love this. Starting next week, we'll be producing a Recipes of Youngstown video series featuring a different recipe every week. And if you have a recipe from the books that you'd like to see us make, leave a suggestion in the comments. If you'd like to get your own set of Recipes of Youngstown cookbooks, you can pre-order them at recipesofyoungstown.square.site. Thanks so much for joining me for this week's After Hours Report. As always, you can find the latest news at afterhoursyoungstown.com and businessjournaldaily.com. Stay safe out there, eat pizza, and I will see you all next week.
Built for the 21st century American workforce, Eastern Gateway Community College has 2 campuses and is a national leader in online learning. EGCC.edu is a digital gateway where 30,000 students are quickly transforming their financial futures through degrees, certificates, transferable credits, and higher paying jobs. And now, residents of the Mahoning Valley can enroll in summer classes for free. It's the EGCC Summer Guarantee. Eastern Gateway. America's new workforce starts here.